21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
What if you've been pitching to the wrong person every time? Because that's one thing I talk about is people have two different profiles. What would your business look like if people understood you immediately? And what if people finally saw you the way you saw yourself? My name is Jake Stahl. I have a degree in psychology. I have a master's certification in neurolinguistic programming, and I have trained over 10,000 people across 6 countries and 47 states. We all have two profiles. We have the profile we show everybody, the one that sits on LinkedIn, the one whose hair we comb and the shirt we put on it, and the one we show to the public. But that's not the one that makes decisions. The one that makes decisions is the second profile that sits inside, the one that responds to fear and biases and happiness. And that's the one that makes all of the decisions. What I teach is how to speak to that second profile. Not only how to recognize it, but how to help it make a decision. And the way I always look at this, Martin, is everybody walks around with a caption over their head. They say one thing, but they've got a caption over their head that's saying something different. I help people read that caption and speak to it. I was on a Zoom call not long ago with 2 prospects, male and female prospect. And when the female prospect came on, I noticed something really cool. Her glasses matched her earrings, like perfectly, like they were made in the same factory. I'd never seen anything like it. So I said to her right away, I wanted to bond, I wanted to build rapport. I said, your glasses are amazing. I said, the way they match the earrings, it looks phenomenal. Well, immediately upon me saying that, she started to twist her wedding ring. And she started to pull her wedding ring off and put it back on. And she started to look at her wedding ring. And what she was saying to me from her first profile was, yes, I'm ready to do business. But what her second profile was saying to me was, you touched a scar. I'm reminding myself I'm married. I'm showing you I'm married. I touched something that should not have been touched. And it was still raw. So I had to reframe and step away and come back into the conversation from another angle. So had I not read that caption, had I not spoken to that caption, I would have lost the sale immediately. But instead, we reframed it away. We brought her back to the conversation. The playing with the wedding ring stopped. She stopped looking down. She started focusing on me again, and we wound up closing the sale. But that's the caption I'm talking about. Her voice was saying, we want to do business with you. Her caption was saying, you touched a scar. I'm married. Don't do this. And that's the caption that makes the most sense to look at and read. One of the best ways to read the caption is to listen to what's not being said. For instance, I'm sitting in a meeting, I'm making a presentation, the CEO's paying attention, and all of a sudden, the CEO looks to their left and starts tapping their pen. That to me says way more than anything they're going to say to me. My job is to recognize that. Listen, Mr. CEO, it looks like I just said something that caught your attention. Help me poke holes in what I'm saying. So I bring them in back into the conversation. But this is all about signal reading. This is all about not letting any of those small signals go. Person has their legs pointed towards a door, that's a signal. Person puts their head down, that's a signal. Call it out, don't ignore it. That signal you read with the CEO and that signal from the Zoom story that I shared, That's all in my book, as well as the trigger. So she gave me a signal that it wasn't uncomfortable. I triggered that thought in her head, whatever it was about the wedding ring. And then the next thing I had to do was reframe. So how do I get her refocused on what we were talking about in the conversation? This is all in the book. It's a process, it's an acronym, and if you take these step by step, it shows you how to own the room. Most people say if you just say the right words, people will listen. That's a falsehood. If communication were only about words, every scripted pitch would land. Every carefully crafted email would get a response, and every well-written slide deck would close a deal. But you and I both know that's not how this works. Words matter, but it's far, far less than the person speaking them. People listen to signals. That's the emotional posture between your words. That's why when someone can read a perfect script and get ignored. That's why another person can stumble through a sentence and still command a room. Signal leaks through everything. Control your signal, and the room will follow you. Confidence does not come just because you succeed. This myth destroys more potential than almost anything else. People will wait to feel confident before they take risks, pitch themselves, raise their prices, or step into bigger rooms. They think confidence is the reward for results. It isn't. Confidence is the precedent to results. Confidence at its core is a pattern, not an achievement. It's a set of micro-learned behaviors, the way you stand, the way you breathe, the way you take up space, and even the way you speak without rushing. It's the internal agreement you make with yourself that you don't need permission to show up fully. The biggest fallacy that I hear from people is if I'm good, people will just notice. Let me tell you, that myth is just comfort disguised as humility. People love the idea that talent speaks for itself, that quality is enough, that hard work eventually gets rewarded, and that recognition arrives on its own timeline. It's comforting, but it's also completely false. The world doesn't reward the best. The world rewards the most visible. You can be brilliant and still be invisible. You can be exceptional and still be unheard. And you can be the most qualified person in the room and still overlooked because you never stepped forward. Here's a thing to remember. Your presence speaks before your words do. So the signals you send are crucial. And here's a great example. Everybody takes their headshot for granted. I just sit there, I smile, I put it out, I'm good to go. But there's actually 3 things in a headshot that signal trust and that show you as a person to be trusted. First thing, big smile. Show a little teeth, get your crow's feet going, make it genuine. Second thing, keep your posture great. So it's either got to be straight up or slightly leaning in. But the third piece is the kicker. The third piece is have a slight tilt to your head. Psychologists believe that when you show your carotid artery, you're showing that you trust them and that they can trust you. Those 3 pieces of a headshot will start to persuade people ahead of time, before they even talk to you, that you're someone whose presence is not to be ignored. So you can buy my book, Own the Room, How to Communicate to be Seen, Heard, and Respected. In that book, you will find out exactly the way to go from being forgettable to unforgettable. It gives you a step-by-step procedure to get that done. I have been coaching individuals on this for 13 years. I also coach sales teams of multinational corporations. So I do individual coaching as well as corporate coaching. I have a podcast that's out right now. It's also called Own the Room. And on LinkedIn, my newsletter is Own the Room. You can also catch me on social media, on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok as Jake the Mind Mechanic, where I continue to give you tidbits daily about how to be seen, heard, and respected. You can find me on LinkedIn as Jake Stahl, JakestAhl. There is a bunch of Jake Stahls on there, but I am the CEO of Orchestrate because I run a business development AI product. So you can find me also at orchestrate.com. That's spelled ORCHESTRAIGHT because it's the straightest path to success. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok as Jake the Mind Mechanic. That is my handle. Also listen to my podcast, which is Own the Room, which is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can find my newsletter, Own the Room, on LinkedIn. All of these will give you tidbits on how to communicate with peak efficiency and be at the top of your persuasion class.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.